conocerme pero no. Cree que me basta con sexo en la habitación, pero lo sé todo como tú los besas. Siempre vienes tarde con el dolor de cabeza. No soy boba, sé lo que haces cuando no estoy yo.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Cheyenne and I bring you new tutorials and dance routines every week that you can do on and off the pole, at home or in studio. Today I'm going to be bringing you 2 moves that you can do after your one-handed handstands. Now before trying this, it's super important, 1, that you have a spot with you if it's your first time doing them, and 2, that your handstand, your one-handed handstand, is on point. It doesn't matter how you get into your one-handed handstand. You can do it from a layback, you can do it from a kick up, you can do it from a press up, a cartwheel up and over, as long as it's nice and strong. And I'll be teaching the moves after it. So the first move we're going to do is a kip out of it. The next move is a waterfall down, or a roll out of it. So I'm going to teach you from 2 sides. Now again, make sure you've got a spot if you haven't done these, because it can be a little bit scary. We go from a one-handed to a 2-handed handstand. Now keep in mind, these can be done without taking the hand off the pole. It's just, again, this is how I like to do it, but it can be done with the hands on the pole. It just, if you are doing it that way, I will explain it in a sec, but just be mindful of the shoulder in that twisted position, because when you go to drop out, you can pull through the shoulder. This is why I like to place both hands down, because it adds a little more control and not over rotating my shoulder, which could potentially end up in injury if I do something wrong. So disclaimers are over. So I'm going to go over the first one, which is just a kip down. So not too hard. The hardest part is actually transitioning the hand down. Like I said, you can choose to get up into your handstand position however you like. You can also do it from a layback, whichever you prefer. So what's going to happen? Coming up into, so I'll just turn because you're not going to see. What's going to happen? Once I'm up in my one-handed handstand, make sure your head is pressing against the pole, because it adds stability to your movement. I'm going to take the twisted hand that is on the pole and place it down as if I were to do a handstand. You want to make sure that the hands are shoulder width apart and you're engaging and squeezing your core and legs. You want everything to be a really strong, tight pencil position. If you aren't strong, you might be unstable, tip off to the side or tip off the wrong way. So super important, you push through the shoulders, engaging your whole upper body, your shoulders, your lats and your back, keeping your core nice and tight and locking out those legs. If you are doing these for the first time, I do recommend having shoes on, because for this particular one, we do land heavy and the shoes take the load first before your knees do, and you don't want your feet to hit the ground. So I'm going to come up into that twisted grip handstand position. Again, like I said, you can go into it however way that works for you. So for me, I'll do a separate tutorial on these, but this is if you have this particular handstand. So coming up into position, into my twisted grip, creating tension and pulling on. Now I'm going to come up onto the pole into my handstand position. Now from here, I'm going to look down to the ground, lock out my whole body. I'm going to take the hand off the pole, place it onto the ground, and then I'm going to allow my body to drop by tucking the knees in and landing on my knees and feet. The feet will take the fall first. So looking down to the ground, hand off, drop. So again, the hardest part of this is the hand off. You don't need to do it as slow. Just keep in mind, I am doing this for your tutorial, so I have to do it a little bit slower for you to see. I'm going to change directions so that you can see this from another angle. Now, if you find that you're a little bit unstable in that handstand position and the swap is scary, like I said, first of all, have a spot. It will help so that you get comfortable with the movement. But the other thing you can do, you can keep the side of your body resting up against the pole. This can also help take some of the weight when we transition from here to here. Your body will shift a little bit and it does help prevent a tip over. But if your handstands are strong, you won't need to rely on the pole as much. You'll just go straight into that one-handed position. So going through from the side angle, coming up, hand on the pole, and again, coming up however way you want to come up. Yeah, good. Now from here, tight. See, before I started to shake a bit because I wasn't engaged. Engage core, quads, and upper body. Push through those arms, look down to the ground. Take the hand off the pole, 1, and then drop down to your knees. So that one there is a way you can exit out of your one-handed handstand going into a normal handstand. Now, another trick that I'm going to teach you from your one-handed handstand. Now this is your chest roll down, so your waterfall, but in reverse. Kind of like your worm, and if you're not sure of what a waterfall is, because there's so many different names across all these studios, can't keep up, but think of it kind of like a worm. Now, again, super important that you have your worm, which if I'm going from a downward dog position, the reason why I'm going from downward dog, because it's a closer mimic to this move as opposed to just from my knee. So super important you have your worm. When you do this, make sure your head is off to the side. Because we're going from a handstand position, you don't want to be in this position, especially if you don't have the flexibility through your neck. Always look off to side. So as I come up, I'm going to look to the side at the last moment, but bending through the elbows, 1, 2. Trying to do, when you do this, keep in mind, really big back arch. I've just done a very slow, easy one so that, you can follow along at wherever you are watching this tutorial. But when we're doing it from the handstand position, it's more arch through your spine, okay? So when the hand comes down, the hardest part is the drop down, so after the hand coming down to the ground. When you go to place the hand down, you're going to need to come into a tricep push-up position. So the arms will be here, and you're going to come down this way to get the chest onto the ground. Now, what you want to remember is it's like you're trying to kick your head with your feet until the very end of the movement. So keep them up towards your head. So what will happen as I come down this way, the legs are going to fold over, and again, active flex through the leg, and imagine you're trying to kick yourself in the head by keeping your spine arched in this position. If you do not arch and you go to come down out of this, you may belly flop and hit your hips or your cookie onto the floor, or even your chest. So really focus on this movement prior to going into this. Do a few run-throughs from the downward dog. The other thing is, it can be quite challenging. This is a slightly more advanced move, so again, please have a spot. The other challenge is the little drop down. There's a moment where you need to do a tricep push-up, but your whole body weight is on those arms. So just keep that in mind, that again, it's super important to have a spot, and you need to have the strength to hold a strong handstand. I was about to say shoulder stand, but a strong handstand. If you don't and you're trying to do these, you may face plant and injure yourself, and that's not what we want. So work on slow progressions to build up to this. So let me take you through the movement. Now you already, like I showed in the last trick, you already know that the hand will go from the pole down into that handstand position. So we've already got that down packed, hopefully, but now we're going into that back, the reverse waterfall or worm to come out of it. Now, You can come up into your position any way you like, but I am going to, when I go down, bend in. I'm not having my elbows flared, so more of a tricep push up. I'm arching through my spine, and I'll turn my head slightly so that my chin isn't going to hit into the ground, okay? Especially if you don't have a lot of neck flexibility. You want to work with where you're at with your own flexibility. So coming up into that handstand position. For this one, I will kick up into it. Again, you can get up into it however way you like. So up. Now from here, pencil your body looking down to the ground. Hand down, one, and then bend, arch, and drop. So when I'm doing it, you'll notice hands are down, bend through the arms, arch your back, and imagine your feet are trying to kick your head. That will maintain this arch position. Another thing to be mindful of, if you are super flexible, that make sure that you're not trying to overarch, because if you do that, you'll probably tend to flip over the other way, which could still be a cool trick, but safety first. So we want to go through that back flexibility whilst keeping everything nice and engaged, but we don't want to hyperextend and really push through it if it means we might flip over the other way. So I'm going to show you again. Oops. Sorry, poles. I'm going to show you again, but from this side. So from here, get up into your handstand position however way you like. You can kick up, lay back. Again, you choose, but from there, we'll go into that drop. So up, stiff body. Hand is going to come down. One, bend through the elbows, arch, and drop. So I don't like to do these too slow because whilst I can handstand, it's still quite fatiguing. But that one there is a way you can exit out of your one-handed handstands. Enjoy. Don't forget to tag me if you do try these.